what we are going to talk about today is instructional media repositories. I'm familiar with Kari, but my name is Rebello, and I work in instructional development as an instructional designer.
And I'm Andrew Hinote. I work in instructional development as well as an instructional tech support specialist.
So, on that note, if you want to start.
So when we talk about instructional media repositories, we're really referring to anything out on the web that is a collection of video or audio or any type of media that you can just pull from. And the advantage to tapping into instructional media repositories is that it's stuff you don't have to make. You know, you can go in there, find something relevant to whatever you're trying to teach, and pull it into your course, and you get the advantage of someone else's work. And that's nice because it's not always it's not always reasonable to develop your own 20-minute video on something, or an animation or anything like that. But a lot of times someone else has already done it for you.
So, given that, what do you think they offer, or why are they important? Why is it important to pull in external resources into your class, regardless of mode or environment? So, you want to throw some reasons out, or your own words?
Or does anybody have an example of something they might have pulled from Purdue? Like they're like the standard, so you just pull from Purdue because they've got great resources. Or
yeah, we pulled some external videos when we were working with English 102. Different videos to help the students understand like MLA and things like that. And that's the thing, if they've already done it well,
yeah,
why reinvent the wheel?
And it's a lot of it's a universal thing.
Right. Exactly.
So see, I told you we should have waited one more minute, but anyway.
Well, we'll set it to magic time.
So we just started. Probably about 60 seconds ago, and we just tried to give an introduction to what we're talking about today, and it's instructional media repositories. And what Andrew's, I don't know, why don't you just restate your brief definition?
Sorry. So instructional media repositories refer to anything out there online where you can go tap into video, audio, or any type of media resources that have been made by other people or other organizations that you can pull into your own instruction and take advantage of through the internet or through your course.
So, Chan, Rich, do you have any experience working with instructional media repositories or pulling in information into your courses or for trainings?
Especially media. So.
Or Paul, I didn't mean to.
Yeah, I've used the atomic learning videos like for Photoshop and stuff.
Okay.
In my courses a little bit. So.
Okay. And you pull it into my courses, or do you use it externally?
I pulled it in. I didn't realize I could use it until recently.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We'll cover a little bit of that today. So,
yeah.
Chan, did you have any?
I added some links to some other websites, including a movie.
Okay.
A short movie video content.
Right. So pulling in these resources are really important because, again, it's why reinvent the wheel, but it's also, it enhances the points that you're already making in your class in a different way. So it's distributing that information to students from someone else's perspective that helps, hopefully supports what you've already kind of created and kind of conveyed to your students. So.
All right, first up, most of people already know about it, and that is YouTube. So YouTube is the perfect internet, depiction of a media repository, in that it's the, there's actually a definition of YouTube. It was something like, I wish I had the definition, but YouTube is the people's media repository. It's sort of the Wikipedia of media repositories, where anybody can put anything they want up there. Not all of it's going to be instructional. Some of it could be, how to conduct a chemistry experiment. Some of it could be, cats falling off shelves. So, but YouTube in education in particular, people have taken to it because it doesn't limit how much you can upload. It is a very universal player that most people are familiar with, and it is easy to share things out of YouTube. They let you embed their videos wherever you want. There's a tool in my courses that you can use to pull videos in from YouTube. And it's also popular just because it's easy to get your stuff out there. In terms of if you have an official channel for your course or for your department maybe or the university, it can be recognized. And a lot of places put social media buttons on their home pages, and YouTube's the play button. It's the little triangle play button that most people have.
And more, we're actually seeing a lot of instructors assign projects or presentations to students, and they're actually asking for their students to post their presentation to YouTube, whether it's an hourly lecture, whether it's actually them recording their presentation with a smartphone, a camera. The students house the presentation on YouTube, and then it becomes a resource for future sessions of the class that can then be pulled in for the next session, for other students in that current class session, just to use as supplementary material. So, for example, if you have an overall group assignment and you break the course up into the class up into groups, and everyone's responsible for mastering one nugget of that whole topic and presenting it back to class. These are study guides for students when they go home and they have to prep for their final paper, their final presentation, or their final project or exam. At the end of their class, they can go home and they can review these materials for their students because you've been able to pull them back into the course site for students.
And a good example of what YouTube is great for searching, go to that one. One of the more popular, it's not an organization, but communities that uses YouTube to post their stuff is TED and TEDx, which hosts sort of a series of short talks by just different people on a variety of different topics. And this one in particular is by Seth Godin, and it is on how to get your ideas out there. So it's more of a broad piece, but I mean people from every discipline, every background, countries, sometimes just universities, libraries, community centers, they'll host what's called a TEDx event. And then they record these lectures on just whatever people are interested in, and they post a lot of them online.
This one's specific to marketing, so he shows how marketing trends have changed, and he actually goes into describing, before there was the bell curve and everybody was supposed to focus on the peak of the bell, and now times have changed where you really should be focusing on not being the ordinary, what the population, what the overall majority wants. You should actually, how to be successful with marketing is to market on the fringes of what the demands are. Because those are the folks that have the passion for what it is that you're trying to market, and finding your niche in that population is actually what's going to produce profits and more sales and success.
So you think about, that's something a chapter of a marketing textbook would absolutely talk about. And so you come and you look up, marketing lecture or marketing, whatever the topic specific to a chapter might be. And then here's an expert in the field that gave an 18-minute talk at a TEDx event that's just up on YouTube, free for anybody to access, that can help drive home whatever point you're trying to teach in your course.
And I love this guy because he has a great way of presenting and framing
really
these
cool
topics. This particular lecture, he actually goes back to what marketing was when it initially started, and he talks about bread has always been around, hopefully, and who was the first person to slice bread, and was actually unsuccessful to slice a loaf of bread and distribute it to folks for 15 years until Wonder Bread came along, and they said, no, it's a really good thing, and then once Wonder Bread kind of framed it, packaged it as efficient and useful, then it took off. So it's about finding that niche in what everybody deems is, oh, that's too weird and foreign and not common. So it was really interesting.
PowerPoint. Any questions or comments about YouTube? Good uses?
Not YouTube, but TEDx and TED Talks, are they the same thing? Or are they
Yeah, TED is the official organization, and they host the sort of the bigger city ones. So like TED Austin, TED DC, TED Seattle. TEDx is the ones that it's more of a community-based one. So we could do if we were organized, we could do TEDx UMass Dartmouth, and you publicize it out in the TED community, and they don't necessarily sponsor it, but it's just sort of an open label for anyone to use to facilitate that type of event.
Thank you. I could be wrong, but don't they, TEDx is responsible for more virtual presentations of their mini conferences. So I think that they
that kind
could be wrong.
Sticking to the structure of a TED event where it's a however long conference, half day long conferences, with a series of short speakers. That's sort of the TED signature, and sort of like what this one looked like. They expect you to do that, and then also share it out for the good of the online community to see what actually happened to that. Next step.
So NBC Learn, I'm sure that we're familiar with NBC and Take One News, Brian Williams program. But NBC Learn is also something that you can pull in. It's become, we actually use it or access it through a Mashup tool in my courses, but it can be pulled into the course site. A lot of instructors have been utilizing this as a way to pull in current events or just historical information, historical events that have come in through NBC, whatever their database holds, which is over 16,000 stories and media releases. So they pull those into the course site, and then they have students to connect the dots. So connect it to whatever topic is at hand. What is your stance on this historical event? What is your stance on this, success in history? And then they just pull it into the course site, so of course can use it and for convenience.
And NBC, as a network, television network, owns several channels, and so you can find things on health, business, some of the more universal stuff you'll see on like the Dateline specials, the Nightly News and Today Show.
History, art, science, technology,
They've got
agriculture.
everything. They even have, my favorite piece about NBC Learn is that things are updated Mondays and Fridays. So I think it was last summer with the Summer Olympics, and NBC usually has the coverage of the Olympics. So twice a week they were updating NBC Learn with broadcasts that they were doing related to the Olympics. So if you were teaching anything about current events, or there's a lot that plays into the Olympics, business, marketing, like every aspect of what a university teaches, you could really pull in really up-to-date current stuff. Sort of a nod to the ego of NBC, but they were reporting on Brian Williams' little scandal there about reporting false information, but those news reports were up there, so you could pull a current event example into your course through NBC. And then a nice piece about NBC Learn is that all the videos are closed captioned, and they provide bibliographic information in APA, MLA, all the major formats. So let's take a look at NBC Learn. Now this is only accessible through my courses, so you do have to pull it into your course site, but you can link to particular videos, or you can just let students jump directly into the main database. And the whole site is set up and broken down by collections, which are more like, collections are like the discipline specifics. So we have current events, African American studies, sciences, communications, law, education, ethics, English. Like it's if you teach, there's something you can find in here that you can pull from. And I'll mention too, if the NBC archives go back as far as 1920, before they were even doing television and they were just in radio. So there's some interesting things to pull from if you aren't necessarily looking just for current events, but just something polished that covered a particular topic in.
We had an instructor who utilized this to have the class kind of monitor current events throughout the semester, and they were a criminal justice course. And what they did was they assigned, you can pick whenever you want to do this within the course. You're allowed at this many points or percentages towards your overall grade, but you have to write a reflective response, maintaining a stance you've learned in the course, someone historical versus how that person would take a stance on this now new current event. So that was a nice way to get the students to kind of translate what they had learned in the class as to how it would be impacted, and how it would be impactful in today's world. Yep.
Is this a tool in
my courses?
Yep, it's a tool, also called a mashup. If you've ever looked at the mashup tool in my courses, when you go to build content up at the top, it's under there called NBC content.
So the same way that you would pull in your YouTube videos, it's right there, just in the same columns.
And so under the current events heading, they have everything for this year organized out by month, or you can jump back into particular years. And this is current as of last week. The Speaker of the House announces his resignation, and there's a bunch of other stuff that's just very recent. But if you do jump into something more subject specific, let's pick one here. Let's get education. The Oregon College shooting, that was just this recently. Pope Francis, so as it relates to education. But then, aside from news stories, you can also see something a little more polished, like beating homework hassles, how rising textbook prices mirror, drug costs, and then, sprinkled in here are also the specials they've done that are a little more documentary style. So if they do a special on something about the Civil War, like an anniversary of like the conclusion of the Civil War, NBC produces a lot of stuff. You might find it up here in pieces for you to pull into your course. It all depends on what you're looking for, but NBC has interesting, polished content to pick from.
As opposed to YouTube, we're going to search with caution, so it's helpful.
Oh, that's something we wanted to mention about YouTube.
Yeah.
Always watch the video in full before you decide to pull it into your course. It's always good to make sure you watch the whole thing on YouTube, because like I said, anyone can put stuff up. Most of the time they're not trying to catfish you with a video, but just to make sure it's really what you want and you're not just going off the title. NBC, a little safer.
always
It's all
students
rated.
make that connection, you know, oh, this is what my teacher is supporting. Oh, no, never mind, so we don't want to.
YouTube is, I mean, NBC's got its own problems, but you know, YouTube it's uploaded by a person, so it's very easy for bias to be in there or false information. So.
Yep.
All right, moving on. Atomic learning. Now, someone had mentioned they use atomic learning in their course, and what it is it's a series of, or actually, it's a series of playlists and virtual online workshops on a ton of different software technologies and just academic success skills. So the example of using, you know, your students are expected to use Photoshop in a class, but they're expected to operate at a certain functional level. You don't necessarily have time to teach them every single thing about Photoshop. Atomic learning comes in because they have a whole virtual series of videos. So it's screen recorded videos with narration over them of someone explaining how to use all the different features of Photoshop. So if you wanted to, you know, if it was just one particular thing they have to do, you can link to just one particular video about how to do it, and that's just a couple minutes. Or if they really need to know how to use, you know, the breadth of the features, you can link to a whole playlist that says, you know, starts at open up the software and finishes up at, you know, saving your file and exporting it out in formats and it can get in detail.
This is come in handy for some folks when we repeatedly hear session after session, especially for English folks or a lot of the writing disciplines where they constantly have to cover and donate time in their class to covering APA set. It's really convenient for folks to assemble a playlist that they resonate with and that they actually like and are supporting, and pull it into their class, give it to their students. Their students can have it as a referral for at home, and you know, replay it every time you have to write a paper because something just doesn't stick every time you have to write a paper. You have to go back to what, you know, you have to reference those materials. Other things that we've assembled playlists for faculty and departments are time management skills, what it's like to now be an online learner, what it's like to just be a college student in general. So those things have been really handy for folks, for instructors and for students to use. Did you have a question, Jan?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. So popular stuff, you know, the Adobe suite of software, they have a ton of stuff. Microsoft Office, the basics of Word, PowerPoint, Excel. I think if you've dealt with students, you know, they're all over the map in terms of how familiar they are with those software applications. So you can help them, you know, and try to walk them through. But if they're at home, there's only so much you can do in letting them know this is available to them. Or to you if you have questions or you're curious about how to do something.
And you can actually access this through my courses as well as a portal. I'm not sure if you already mentioned that. And then I do believe there's a feature, I think Rich can correct me if I'm wrong, that our faculty can go and create their own materials and post to Atomic Learning as well, and pull that in. So,
I'm sure everybody has access to upload.
not
No,
You
everybody?
might have to talk to me or Tracy to
Okay.
get it
I
uploaded.
knew there was something, that was a possibility, but I knew it had a restriction. So.
All right. So that is Atomic Learning. Let's go take a look. Go to my next tab here. So they all have a similar look and feel because they're video databases. So I can come to search here. And if I'm going to have my students do something in Microsoft PowerPoint, like a presentation, I can search for PowerPoint. And it will bring up any relevant trainings that it has. Come back to it. Here we go. There they are. So PowerPoint's had a few versions over the years. So, you know, PowerPoint 2003, 2007. On campus, we use 2013 on the lab computers. I usually say pull in the most recent one, unless it just came out yesterday. And you could say power up PowerPoint. So it's all the stuff relevant to PowerPoint. So if I wanted to pull in this training, intro for 2007, I just click on it.
I like that there's also segments too, so you don't want your students to have to sit through 2 hours of PowerPoint. You just want them to achieve one skill or be able to do one thing within the tool. You can find that little section and then also deliver that to students.
So in the sort of training format, it's got A, B, C, D, and all of the different pieces of the training broken down. So if you just wanted to work on paragraph formatting in PowerPoint, for example, you click on that piece, and the videos that make up that piece are all listed. So they're all really short and focused on particular topics. You can click on it to watch what it's about.
Was it you that said that you had used something in
They
the
are.
Atomic
Online
Learning?
lessons.
Atomic Learning.
Yeah.
For example,
So
Has it
title
changed
and
since the last time
subtitle
you've been
placement
in there,
are
or?
center aligned.
I was thought
And a
of it
text
more as
placeholder
like
is left
tech
alone.
videos, so I didn't realize they had these other workshops.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
There's a
like
lot more
different
academic stuff in there, so
Yeah.
to at least related faculty certainly need to distribute that information to students. I can help that for you.
So it's just essentially like if you have something up on the projector and you were talking about it, the person's mouse is here, or is that mine? That was mine. But oh no, this is up here. And then you can hear him speaking and he's walking you through how to use this particular feature in PowerPoint. And if you want to share these to students, if you want to share an individual video, there's a little button that shows up next to it. And in my courses, the button is basically, hey, pull this into my course site. But in here, it just produces a link, and you can send that link in an email. You could paste it into my courses, but there's a separate tool that makes it a little cleaner. And that's how you can share individual videos. Or up at the top of this page, you can say, recommend or assign the training, so that you can email this out to students as a whole page or as a whole training. So if I say, assign this to my students, and I'll say, email 101 people. You can give it a due date, not necessarily as useful. It can actually report like so-and-so did watch this video or didn't watch that video. I think as the instructor, you're not so interested in them in knowing all that information. But I just like the assign function because in the student's mind, it becomes a task to do as opposed to just saying, this is out there if you need it. It feels, I like the word assign. So I can check all the videos in this whole playlist, or I can check in pieces that I want. Then at the bottom, oh no, it's up the top. My screen's just so tiny. There's a next button. And the only part you have to really pull in is selecting users. We click add. Come back. This is what I recommend doing in my courses. So if I search for Rachel, there's a lot of Rebellos, I should have known better.
That's me.
A Rebello? Oh, that is you. There you are. So I can say assign this to Rachel. Now, this is if you don't use it connected. This is if you don't use it connected to my courses and you want to assign it to a group of people. In my courses, you can just say, pull this into my site, and it will just show up for you. And it's just like NBC under the, when you go to build content under mashups with YouTube and everything else, Atomic Learning is going to be under there. So if you don't use my courses, you can use it this way. You can also assign it to if you have employees under you, you can assign it to them as staff. And if you want to see if they actually watched it, that's one way to do it. If there's a particular application you support that you want to make sure they know, you can assign it and see if they watch them.
And I think for tutoring, or if someone's reaching out for additional support in your class, maybe you just happen to be in the portal anyway, you're talking with them office hours in that type of setting, then you can just get this to them as quickly as possible. And maybe it's something that's really specific to that student's needs. And if it is obviously going to benefit the class, you can pull it into my courses, but this might just be a quicker way to just get it to one or two direct people.
Hit next again, and then it confirms, and it says submit assignment, and Rachel, I'm going to need to know that you watch this video series on PowerPoint, so report back on that.
Now, do you have to have the portal open to make it play? Like, does
You
it
just
have
have
to
to
know
log in.
you're part of us?
If you send them a link to an assignment or just a link to a video in general,
They'll be able
it'll
to
just
watch
have
it.
them log in with their
Okay.
usual login.
That was all under recommend training.
That was under assign.
Or assign.
You can also do recommend, which is a little more lenient, where you don't have to put a due date. And then you can also just create easy links. And basically, easy link is just say, okay, of this video, what do you want? Feed you easy links. And these are just copy pastable. So if you want to drop these into an email, you can put them in your syllabus, you could put them into a document if you want for the assignment directions. You can just copy paste these links, and when students click on each individual one, they're brought to Atomic Learning. If they haven't logged in, they'll log in. If they've got to their email, they're probably already logged in. And they just click them, and then the video just comes up. Personally, if you're not using my courses, I like the easy links the best. But if you do want to see if the person you send it to actually watches it, the assign function is nice.
Next up on our list.
And next up on our list. Or any questions about Atomic Learning? It's okay. Media Gallery.
Actually, Chris is probably the best spokesperson for this because he's pretty much the one that's developed and designed it. But he's also a member of our Instructional Development Team. But Media Gallery is probably the best description of it would be a homegrown YouTube for faculty or staff to post their works and to share. So Chris wants to provide some more description.
So, what up? The Media Gallery is, like Rachel was saying, it is essentially just a homegrown YouTube, and it provides a lot of the same functionality that you get from YouTube, where it tracks views and also allows you to embed in my courses. Just gives you an embed code that you can add to your course site, and the video then is pulled in. Primarily, we have it as a place to store on-campus student resources, although we do also have faculty resources that have been generated just by having like teaching and learning with technology is also up there. But let's see, we have a couple of categories, and one that I want to focus on mostly is the student resources category. You find here a lot of the instructional resources that have been created by our librarians, as well as individual instructors from different parts of the university who produced videos such as this one on why would you like to, say, enroll in the history program, or what is the College of Arts and Sciences all about, things like that. And then in addition to that, we have instructional resources that focus more on actual skills or research methods and things like that that you would need to make sure that people are competent in your classes. So all of these can be brought in to your My Courses site by simply going to video, which you can also watch on this site. Come down here, and here's the embed code. You just copy that, and you can then paste it into the HTML editor in My Courses. So all of these can be brought in that way. And they are tagged for searching in the same way that YouTube is. So if you're looking for a particular topic, or of course someone's name, you can do a search and see all of the relevant videos.
So we tend to house our events or our lunch and learns or our conferences or any presentations that we do up here for faculty too, because some of the information that we cover, they contact us to go back and reflect on, what did you say when you were presenting at such and such a day? So it's easier sometimes for us to just say, hey, here's a video, here's a recording, please take a look or review what you missed or what you feel like you want to recap. And that's pretty much what we use that for. So
This will be up on the Media Gallery.
yeah.
Can you repeat how can I input this into my classes?
So underneath the videos, if you pull one in, there's a link that says embed code. And the embed code is sort of a web designing term that in your My Courses site, you can make an item or a blank page. And in the text editor, where you can do bold, underline, and that kind of stuff, there's a button that says HTML on it. And when you click that, it opens up another window where you can type in text, where you just paste that embed code on. So this bit down here, that's iframe jibbity here, you would copy this text below the video, and then in your My Courses item or in your My Courses page, you can, when you're typing it out, hit that HTML button on the editor, which is with the buttons up at the top, and paste it in that window that comes up. And that will, when you save it, translate it into a square that actually shows up as a video on the page. If you have any questions, actually at the bottom of the handout is our phone number and email. So we tried to not have to go through the click by clicks in this presentation, but if you're trying to pull some of those in, you can always email or call us using that information if you'd like to learn how.
Also, our last slide has our contact info too.
It does. Start slide.
Does anyone have any questions about anything that they've seen or that we've talked about, or any ideas, or would you like some ideas for how to use some of the tools that we've talked about today? We're happy to talk or chat.
It's okay if not.
Yeah, no, that's okay. There's no wrong answer. So,
What's the web address of the Media Gallery?
It is actually I know it's gallery. We can send that out to the four of you as well. The links to these gallery.instructionaltech.umassd.edu. Instructional tech is all one word.
We do send out a virtual copy of this with some additional links to some of these. The reason why we didn't put links on the top four that we covered are they all don't have accessible links.
Like ones in
that are
like
user-friendly.
NBC.
So we are going to provide some.
Yeah. NBC's in My Courses, Atomics in the portal, so they're not direct links, but we can give you instructions. And at the bottom of that page, there's also 4 other ones we aren't going to talk about in this session that are just good. They just exist out in the education sphere online, and they cover a few different things. I think the first one was
Merlot, which is for open educational resources. That is a wealth of information.
It's been around a long time.
Yep, that folks can share. Again, searchable by topic, searchable by category, discipline. Lots of folks, lots of sharing. And then FAT was actually a real interesting one that was
Out of University of Colorado.
Yep, and it's for simulations. So a lot of our health science folks are always looking for lab simulations to bring into their class, because once they cover it in class, chances are if it's not recorded, the students go home and say, oh my gosh, I forgot how to draw blood, or I forgot how to place my hands, or measure that pipette, or whatever it is. And this provides a lot of online simulations. So even if some of them are cartoons or some of them are actually more realistic versions of those simulations, it's still really helpful for students to have that review or the ability to review these things at home.
And the simulations, some of them, a lot of them are interactive. So it's something the students don't, it's not just something they watch. It's something like, okay, this is more of it, but take the needle and put it in the vein. and it's not restricted to just health sciences. It's sciences, and there's just
chemistry,
other stuff.
or other things.
Anything you can think of with simulation. It's a cool database to look through for something a little more engaging than just a video.
And PBS, we all love PBS just as much as we love NBC Learn, because who didn't grow up on Sesame Street, and that's always useful, right? But PBS covers a lot of documentaries, a lot of, similar to TED Talks, they do presentations with folks at various sites, and they record them, and they're just useful tidbits, useful resources to use to supplement what you're already relaying to your students in class.
And they did, not relevant to a course, they had a documentary a couple weeks ago on Walt Disney. It was fabulous. It's online.
It was a 2-part documentary.
It's a 2-part. It's 3
I was
hours, but it's
informed
worth
it
it.
was a 2-part documentary that I should watch as it was happening. So, but yeah, to get to that, sorry. And then Khan Academy.
Yes. Khan Academy is a lot like Atomic Learning, except it's on, could be on a lot of different things. It could just be lectures, it could be math, where they're actually demonstrating something. Khan Academy is pretty well known. Another free place to get cool stuff.
We tried to provide a few different options based on, one is more science, technology, engineering heavy, one is more math, one is arts, health sciences. So we tried to provide a pretty good mix of where folks could get information. That's useful for you for working with faculty, but also engaging who's in the room too. So, Tracy, you had your hand up.
I was just wondering if anyone was interested in using the assigning in Atomic Learning, assigning students at all. Maybe not now, but it does require, just in case anyone is interested and you go in and you're unable to assign, I think that's a role change. So that's something you can contact any of the IT team members. And so if you don't see assign
As an option.
yeah, if you don't see it, just let us know.
Oh,
Change
that's
it.
good to know.
And did you mention, I'm glad I just kind of blurted it out, but you are the folks to contact if someone wants to actually create something to post to Atomic Learning?
And that's
Is that my
Post it for
understanding?
people.
And I think if you want to post your own stuff, Atomic should be at the bottom of the list. YouTube is your best bet, and then if not YouTube, something like the Media Gallery if you contact us. If you contact us and you're not sure where to put your stuff, we'll point you in the right direction. Or point you at something that maybe already exists.
I just want to make sure what you showed shows for everyone, and if it doesn't, that's no
Yeah,
problem.
yeah.
We can work with it.
I'd love to assign various Atomic Learning things to people. I don't think that would be politic.
People don't like to be tracked.
So we can equip some of our LC students for their training, which is really good.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
In terms of students, you could just make one set of them and just assign. You can just make a custom grouping of things they need to know and just assign it. And if they watch it, they don't watch it, you'll know. So other than that,
This might be,
Can I make a suggestion?
this
As
might
their
be.
boss, yes, you
I was just
can.
thinking that same thing, I'm glad you said it.
is it Tracy our boss?
Yes, Director, what would you
But even in like the My Courses dashboard, just this, like boom, 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 just to, just to show like, or maybe it goes to,
just to remind people, this is why it's always good and scary to have your director sit in a presentation, no, what's that? So neat. So that's all we have for you today.
That's it.
We always try to be mindful of lunch and learn times and, the time it takes for you to come here from class and then give you time to kind of digest your food, breathe a little, and then go back to class.
And there's lots of food in the back, so feel free to take some stuff.
Yes.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Sure. Thank you.